Welcome to the Point of No Return podcast, a show at the intersection of technology and strategy. On this show, we interview industry leaders and experts to better understand how they think about strategy during this time of exponential progress.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Point of No Return podcast. I am your host, Nectar. On today's show, I'm very happy to bring to you Malik Yacoubi, co-founder and CEO of Nesto. I've chased Malik for a little while to get him on the show, and I'm super happy that he finally took the time. He's obviously a very busy person, considering he just launched his startup. I met Malik a few years ago when he was working at Cossette as a chief digital officer. So we crossed paths when he was in the agency space. He was managing one of the largest digital teams, if not the largest, in the country. And prior to that, we spoke about his past, his entrepreneurial past, which was for me a little bit new. So we got to uncover a little bit how he got to Cossette, how he started companies after university, and how he sold his company to Cossette. And then we spoke a lot about his new venture, which is called Nesto, which is in the mortgage space, which they're trying to bring more transparency to an obscure process. Having gone through the mortgage process, I can attest to how complicated and frustrating sometimes it could be. So they're really trying to shake that industry up, really in the fintech space. So he sees a big opportunity in fintech. I think you'll really enjoy this conversation. Malik is really one of the smartest entrepreneurs I know, super hardworking and very humble at the same time. And I really hope that you take away a few insights. Thank you. Malik, it's a pleasure to see you today, man.
Thanks. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's been a while, man. It's funny. We're catching up before we start recording, and yeah, our paths have crossed a few times, and it's finally good to catch up. So I appreciate you taking the time. It feels like your schedule is a little bit more busy since the last time we spoke.
Yes, well, actually, starting a new company, I got my agenda to be pretty filled up, I would say.
I can imagine.
Yes.
I can imagine. We're going to get to Nesto. We're going to talk about it because I'm finding out about it. I'm learning about it. And it's been now, I think, close to a year that you guys launched, just under. But the first question I want to ask you is, what originally got you interested in working in the web?
Yeah, so that was way back. I was actually in university at Université Laval, and we were one of the first cohorts where they were giving laptops to students. So this is when I discovered the web truly, and it was about 1998 or something. So the web was booming. I was watching the business news, saying like all the new millionaires that were building themselves a lot of work, doing web. And I was like, wow, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. All I need is a laptop to become an entrepreneur now. So I started my first company, while I was in university. And this is what got me into the web. I met with my partner that is still my partner today in business, Karim Ben Abdallah. That was the CTO. So I was mostly in marketing and business. And we said, let's start a web company without knowing what the web was really about.
And what did you guys do exactly back then? Websites.
So we started by doing websites. So that was we truly started a company around 2000. And we went funny story. We went to the bank because we said, we need some capital to launch a company. And it was like right in the bubble of the internet in 2000. And we went to Royal Bank on Grande Allée in Quebec City. And then we said, we're launching a company. And what kind of company is this? It's an internet company. Amazing. We're looking to invest in an entrepreneur like that. And we got a credit line of 100K. With no asset, nothing to back it up. It took like almost 2 days and we came out with 100K. And then we made all the bad choices an entrepreneur can make. We rented an office on Cartier Street in Quebec City. We, at that time, the Yellow Page was still a big thing. We purchased a big advertising in Yellow Page that was like half a page for a year. Once you commit for it, you need to pay for it for a year. So we got our office, got our Yellow Page ad, finally got the internet connection into our office, and then the bubble crashed. And everybody were, the web, is it not good? We cannot go back. We're not sure we should invest in the web. So this is when I learned that 100K, it's not a lot of money. you can run out of this money quite fast. And we had to, find ways to build our business. So, rapidly what we found is that recurring revenue are good. So we built a web hosting company, on the back of, at the time it was Overture and Yahoo, where we were buying advertising there to promote our web hosting, services. And this is how we started.
Oh, wow. Okay. And at what point did that become Mobilito, or is there another chapter that I'm missing?
It's another chapter that, soon after, at some point we decided okay, let's do it. We've done e-commerce website and large system for companies. We sold the web hosting company and the web design company, and decided to go in mobile before the iPhone existed. And this is when we started to launch Mobilito. So we basically launched two companies in parallel. Rapidly after we launched Mobilito, we met a guy that's well known in the industry, Daniel Robichaud, that was owning multiple companies at the time, and then we really get along well. And one of his company was at the time named Telnip, that was doing payment over the phone. And he said, I would love to work with you in mobile. I have this company. It should become like more mobile payment. Why don't we do something together? And then we just decided to exchange shares in between both companies. So we ended up having two companies at that time. And so we had Mobilito that was doing mobile services and mobile marketing, and Telnip that became Payment Pin that was doing mobile payment.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. And I've had Daniel on the podcast, and obviously incredible entrepreneur. And I didn't know that little history between you two. So that's great to know. Yeah. And it seems like you guys were doing mobile when mobile wasn't a thing, right?
Totally. It doesn't, I mean, everybody was, it was basically the time where the phone were all gray, right? There was no color. It was a really small screen, and it was called the WAP. And we were trying to push, SMS services and telling people, one day, you'll get the whole internet in your hand. It will be amazing. But it took a while before, Steve Jobs got out with his iPhone. Yeah. And this is when things, truly become a real thing.
So it really took off as of, let's say, 2007, 2008, really with the iPhone, but you guys had been hustling since 2004.
Yeah, exactly.
In the space, right? With, fighting, I guess for screens like on, BlackBerry devices.
Yeah.
The touch, oh my God, just those devices I remember back in the day were just horrible. But for back then, let's say the Curve, I think it was called, it was still pretty cool, I still remember, the BlackBerry phone where, the way to exchange the message with someone was with these pins, right? Yeah. So I was at a bar and there's a guy trying to pick up a girl, asking her for her pin. So it was that was
That's true, the pin. I forgot about the pin.
The day of mobile technology. But you guys were super early, obviously riding that wave, and obviously but people were still using the phone, so you still had traction. What was your business model back then?
So back then it was let's find, it was mostly services. Okay. So our early clients were the media company. So we got a chance to be the first one that mobilized La Presse, that created a portal for La Presse that was integrated in the TELUS portal. We mobilized the website of Canoe from Quebeca. We worked with Torstar. We worked with Workopolis. And we work on several marketing project, some were with Adidas and others. So but it was mostly enabling these large corporations to become, to entering into the mobile world.
Which makes a perfect sense for in terms of the next move, right? Which was Cossette, right? Because they work with big brands. So they saw that, hey, there's this company that's doing some interesting marketing in the space. How easy was it for that acquisition? Did you wrestle a lot, or was it more champagne, this is incredible? I'm just curious to get your thoughts on what happened during the acquisition.
So Pierre de Lagrave, right?
Yes.
From Cossette. So I had the chance, and for anybody that don't know Pierre de Lagrave, it's somebody that's truly incredible, that's worth knowing. It's his own character. But I had a chance to meet one of the co-founder of Cossette, is Pierre de Lagrave, and very fast we aligned and, okay, how can we grow this business faster? All of our clients should be mobile. None of them are really mobile today from his perspective. So it was quite easy to say, it makes sense. And I think we can grow the business and grow faster. And for me, it was like, basically my first job after I joined Cassette, after we sold Mobilito to Cassette. It was basically the first time I had a job and a boss at that time.
It's a great story. You built two companies, and then all of a sudden you become an employee.
Yeah, exactly.
But employees kind of short selling it in the sense of, or underselling it, I should say, because you had, a pretty good position, right? You're a position of influence and executive decision making at the company, and your role also changed over time. So curious about, you have an 8-year period in your career at Cassette. Curious to maybe a quick summary of how you progressed through the ranks of a very large and established communications firm.
So first, when I joined Cassette, I was in charge of mobile. I had the title of VP Mobile or something like that. So, we worked a lot on mobilizing most of the clients of Cassette. We sold tens of projects that were related to mobile. And then, so that was, okay, so what's next? And from the beginning, I was under the impression I would stay not more than 2 years at Cassette. But after 2 years, they offered me something broader that would, include technology and pretty much everything digital. So it was very cool because I learned a lot. Coming from an entrepreneur background, mostly in technology, it's, branding, it's something abstract for some of us, right? So I learned the value of branding. I learned the value of, the true value of marketing, get to meet guys like you, Nectar, when you were at Google and many very interesting people in marketing and in high influential position. So I learned a lot. I had the chance to build different things. And then over time, they asked me, would you like to take over a national role at Cassette? So, managing all the different tech team. And, there was a few hundred people, in this team at that time. So it was really interesting. And at the same time, I always wanted to stay connected with the startup world and the entrepreneur world. So we launched, pretty early on in my career at Cassette, we launched Cassette Lab. That was basically an incubator for startups, that could bring value to the client of Cassette. And for me, truly why I wanted to do that, it's to helping startups to connect with large brands such as, the Home Depot or the McDonald's. So it was quite successful, actually, Cassette Lab. We launched Cassette Lab in Montreal. Then we launched it in Vancouver, Toronto, and Halifax. And, few dozen companies went through that and created over 1,000 employees, I think.
Yeah, and a few really well-known ones as well, right? So, Cassette Labs, I think it's one of your, hallmarks in your career in creating that. Having seen some of the companies and the quality of the companies as well. I don't think I was betting on the success of this initiative. It was like, a startup incubator within an ad firm, like. The startup incubators to begin with, it's hard, to get success, but within an agency, like, how's that going to work? So, props to you for that. Like, I have to say, I don't think we've spoken too much about Cassette Lab, but it was one of the more successfully run, because I think also the way how you built a culture around it, right? Left to its own devices, but had access to resources and talent within the mothership. Yeah. And then, so your last title there was Chief Digital Officer. So curious as to I always kind of joke about this title. So I was curious, what does a Chief Digital Officer do?
So I was preaching about digital and it's funny because we just, spoke before, like digital is not a thing anymore. I totally agree. But for a while it was like, first, my mandate at Cassette, when I joined Cassette, the percentage of revenue that was coming from the digital, perspective, what quite small, it was, around 20%. And when I left, it was over 50%. So, my job was to make sure that the company can transform itself. And it was quite easy to transform itself because the clients were transforming themselves, but you need to make sure to be ready to serve, the customer to enter into the digital marketing era. So that was mainly my job. And when I took this title, I was really clear from the beginning with my boss, Louis, that this title will not exist in 2 or 3 years at Cassette for sure.
Yeah.
So, and it disappeared with me.
Yeah. I kind of agree with you, right? It's if you look up digital today, there's a bunch of VPs of digital and chief digital officers. I think this play an important role, but it's really a short-term one, right? We're kind of in purgatory. We're in between two worlds, but it's going to disappear. Yeah. And then obviously, as you said, since you left, so curious as to the reasons for your departure, and then I want to segue into Nesto. Did you were you approached by Diagram to launch Nesto, or had you said, I'm going to take a break, and then happen? So curious as to that in between period.
So in the in between period, I think it's important to mention the other company about beside Mobilito, it was Payment Pin that was doing basically mobile payment and carrier billing. This company we sold to Beaucoup in the States in 2013, and Karim, that was at that time the CEO, joined Beaucoup, built a team of engineers in Montreal and old Montreal. And over time, they built a platform integrated with different payment gateway for Beaucoup. And at some point, Beaucoup merged with a German company, that had enormous amount of engineer. So, they came back to us and said, would you like to purchase back the company? Because we don't need all these. Basically, Montreal was just an engineering pool, and now I have all these engineers in Germany, so I don't know what to do with all of you guys anymore. So we said, okay, what are we going to do with these guys? So very fast, it became a service company that serviced a bank in Austin, in Texas, that was basically a startup that was doing a loan online from $5,000 to $15,000 online. It was called Credit Shop. And this company became very successful while all the tech was built by the team of Karim in Montreal. They raised over 180 million, have done billions in loans. They're soon probably going to IPO. And that was truly fintech, right? So I always stayed in contact with Karim. We were both shareholder in this company, and it's still existing today. And we were like, okay, so let's go back at, once you're an entrepreneur, you always think about that. You always want to come back as an entrepreneur. So I looked into different opportunities over the years at Cassette, but I always wanted to find the right platform and the right next thing for us. And I wanted to start back a new company with Karim. So we said, let's for sure do our next company to be in the fintech now. That's a word, and it's a thing. So we decided to launch, some project and ideas and throwing ideas around fintech, and then Daniel Robichaud at the same time joined Diagram. So it was kind of natural. We talked about, hey Dan, we want to start a new company in fintech. What do you think? Well, I'm joining a fund. It's Diagram Venture. We'll do. So it was quite natural. We looked at different opportunities with Diagram. And when we found that they were working on the opportunity as Nesto, that is, looking to disrupt the mortgage industry, I was like, yes, this industry needs to be changed.
Yeah. It's funny when it's those, it's a real confluence of opportunities that kind of came together, right? So you had to leave at the right time. Dan had to join a fund that was focused only on fintech. Yeah. And of course with your co-founder or ex-co-founder. So that's a good story. I actually didn't know that. So, Diagram, for the people that don't know, it's a really interesting fund that specializes. I've had Ian on the podcast recently as well. So another Diagram company. So maybe to take a second, I'd like to understand and hear, the pitch. What is Nesto?
So Nesto is a platform that is looking to bring more transparency in the market of mortgages. Buying a home is basically the biggest purchase that you can do in your life for most of the people. And if you look at how you need to go shop or get a mortgage rate or understand about the mortgage product, it's quite opaque and it's quite complex to compare the different product, understand, did you get a good deal or I didn't get a good deal? And it's mostly done offline. You need to go visit the different banks and they will propose you something. You don't know if it's good really. So our objective was really to bring more transparency to the process and making sure that we would provide the best price and the best product to our customer. So very to bring transparency and empowering our customer to get their mortgage online as much as possible, while providing them access to advisors that are certified brokers that can advise them on the choice of the product that they're going to make. We understand that everybody is able to make a choice on a mortgage product today. So there's support that can be done via chat or via phone.
Yeah. So do you resemble more of a multi-prêt, or do you resemble more of a bank that issues a mortgage?
So that's very interesting. We're more of a multi-prêt in terms of licensing perspective. So we don't lend our own money. We have 22 lenders that we work with that we lend their money for them. Yeah. So we're more of a multi-prêt. But when I say I truly don't see myself as a mortgage broker, a company. We see ourselves as a technology company.
And how do you make that distinction?
I mean, every decision we make is about the product, is about the customer, the experience of the customer and our product. We don't think about the margin that we're making on each loan, per se. It's like, how can we make this as streamlined process as possible to be as effective as possible so we can pass the savings to the customer.
And it's a digital only experience, which kind of helps justify that.
Yeah.
Was it difficult? Well, actually, before I get into the regulation, I'd love to understand the business model, right? So you get a request, you have to go and solicit demand using a digital platform, right? So we spoke about, use fully Facebook ads, SEO, etc. You create demand on your platform, then you satisfy that demand. Say, I close a mortgage with a Bank of Montreal, for instance, right?
Yeah, so not Bank of Montreal, but yes. So it's not, so let's say with Desjardins for the Quebec folks, or
laggard
or TD. Yeah.
So I signed with TD, great. Like, it's a good example. I have my mortgage with TD. And then, so you then take a percentage of that transaction.
Yeah, exactly. It's free for the customer. So it doesn't cost anything for the customer, and it's factors in the cost of acquisition for the bank. Now, what we make sure is that we pass most or more of our commission back to the customer.
So why is this better than if I just called TD directly, right? Which is the usual process today, right? I'll go to a big brand that's a bank, right?
So there's, so what we see most of the time is that you go there and they will give you not that of a great rate, or not that of and they will say, go shop. So, go shop. If you find something better, we'll match it. But, for us, it's like, we want to bring transparency. We don't want to get, off the bat, you come to our platform and you'll get the best rate. You'll get the best product. So we really see ourselves as the Costco or the Amazon or the Walmart or whatever. It's like, you'll get the best price directly. You don't need to negotiate with us.
Similar to, let's say, like what a Hopper does, where it's like, you always try and get the lowest price for the airline. You're always trying to get, let's say, the lowest price for your mortgage. How does that work though on the back end? Like, what kind of deal do you need to sign with all the financial institutions? Because I can imagine they're not thrilled with like another intermediary selling at a lower price.
No, but our relation with the different lenders are great. So the big banks that we're working with are Desjardins, Scotia, and TD. So the well-known brand, I would say. And there's a pretty large number of specialized lenders in mortgage that only do mortgages, that are specialized in mortgages, that have great deals, and they only work through brokers channel. So the only way that you can, get a mortgage with MCAP, it's basically to go through a broker.
And was it easy to connect to all the different services? Like, do they have APIs, or do you have to program everything from the start? I'm just curious as to the maturity of all the different pipelines of data.
Yeah, so they are not all equal. Some have APIs, some don't. Most of them have some gateways that we can leverage that were existing, that we basically act to be able to connect to it, and in some ways. And one of our co-founder in the company is Chase Belair. He built a great company with his mother out of Ottawa, doing over 250 million of mortgages per year. And we convinced him to quit his business and to join us full time. So what was great is he had all these great relations with all the different lenders that enable us to go faster.
Oh, really? So yeah, like a great biz dev guy, or a partnership guy.
Yeah, exactly.
But what does the word Nesto mean? Where does it come from?
So we try to hide that, but and it's just my branding perspective because it's the nest, right? So the nest, the family nest, and so on. But I don't like the image it gives. So it's Nesto. You know, frankly, we like it. That it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it could be good, right? What does like Twitter mean, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like no one really knows.
Yeah.
But it has a good ring to it, and it's also very bilingual or trilingual. I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Spanish too.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe even a little bit of Greek. You could maybe think of it in many different.
We should test it in the Greek community.
We'll A/B test campaigns.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Can you give us a sense for where you are today in terms of the cycle, right? Like a bit of maybe any kind of metrics that you can share, or just maturity of your company.
Yeah. So first, you know, it's been about a year that I've quit Cassette. I think it was like mid-May, basically my last day at Cassette. So it's been a year. So my last day was a Friday. On a Monday, I was like full time on Nesto.
Wow.
and it went fast, it went so fast. But you know, the first few months we were just four in a room and a whiteboard and some cash in the bank account, looking at building a revolution in the mortgage industry in Canada. So it took us a time to build the team. Now today we're about a team of 20 people. So engineer, brokers, and marketing people. So we built up the team, started to build the platform, truly started to do marketing at end of October. So that's probably not the best period there's a seasonality in mortgages, but it enabled us to test some initiative, test some marketing, looking at how can we convert people down the funnel. So we were attracting people on the platform while we were still building the rest of the platform. So we were optimizing the upper funnel while we were finalizing the full application. So today, we're looking at over 400 million of opportunities. So people that are in the market. We're operational across Canada. Our main market are Quebec, Ontario, and BC. Today, we see a little bit less traction over the last few months in BC for things that are out of our control. But you know, Quebec market is still very good, and Ontario too.
Yeah. And what do you think is your core competency? We spoke about, you know, you guys being very, very good and execute very well on digital marketing, for instance. Mm-hmm. Are there any other factors that you think contribute, or is it really that's kind of the core that you're riding on today? So
definitely digital marketing. I think we're really good. When I compare my stats with others, I think we really overperform on that stage, but we take a lot of time thinking about the customer and what's the flow through the app. So we run, you know, they're constantly running 2-3 A/B tests along the flow to optimize and understand if the user is satisfied, and why. If he's not, then we fix it and we make sure that to push them down the funnel. Because ultimately, if we want to be successful, we want our customer to be able to do as much as possible by themselves. So to empower them as much as possible. So when it's time to make their final decision on the product, it's more effective and it's better.
And who do you look to in the space? Like if I look at I don't know if it's a good analogy, if they're exactly the same, but an firm out of the States, do you think that you're similar in the sense of business model?
So I don't know much about a firm, so I cannot necessarily compare to that. But you know, when you know, there is one company in the state that's Rocket Mortgage, that it's quite successful. Within a few years, it became the biggest mortgage lenders in the United States. It's not similar in terms of they're lending their own money today, but and we're not, but you know, the digital flow, the ease of getting a mortgage it got us inspired, definitely.
How big do you think the opportunity is? Like, what's the vision? Like, do you think you guys have like a lot of land grab in front of you right now?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like the mortgage business on a yearly basis, only in Canada, it's $450 billion. So this is a pretty large market. We're very far from getting even a point of it today. So I think we can grow a lot. And I believe will, you know, down the road will be helping homeowners on a broader perspective too.
Yeah. It's interesting to see how the business model can evolve, right?
Yeah.
Because when you start getting scale, and we could chat about this hopefully in a second take, but it's like there can be so many different opportunities to monetize, create value for homeowners once you have enough data, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And across different financial institutions, because right now, imagine all these the pools of data and subsequent insights are siloed, right? So there's no way to kind of like trace a line and get some kind of pattern recognition. But yeah, of course, you need to have that first, right? So I guess with certain scale can come new opportunities, which I won't poke you now, but yeah, maybe in the future. Maybe I'd love to elevate and chat about the fintech space, right? You've been out publicly speaking about fintech. You guys fall in that category. So I'd love to get your thoughts on where do you think fintech ranks today as an industry in the sense of is how early it is, what are the different opportunities that you look at? So just curious to get your thoughts.
Yeah. So I think there's still a lot of hype in the market. I think not all companies are equal today in the market. And I truly think that the companies that are looking to completely disrupt the existing, market are not in the right direction. I think the incumbents and, you know, the banks and the insurance company and so on, are here to stay. And the winning startup will be the one that will, be able to, you know, get them to participate into the technology revolution that we're seeing today. So, you know, for me, I put as much effort in, you know, creating great relationship with my lenders while, you know, getting the right experience for my customer.
What do you think doesn't get enough attention in the space, or is maybe misunderstood?
What doesn't need enough attention? I cannot answer that. I don't know. I don't know what you mean by attention. So what do you mean by attention?
Well, I would say so. It's like you brought up a good point where it's like everyone is hype around startups, and like it's kind of a good example of like, hey, you know what? Like relationship with the incumbents is important, right? So it's like that is not well understood or appreciated. So I was just trying to poke on any other similar type insights that you have, you know, considering your expertise in the space.
So, and it's interesting because yesterday I was speaking with a VC that doesn't think that, you know, revenue is that much of importance. But I believe that if you want to build a financial company, revenue and having the right revenue model around a business, it's quite important. You know, I've seen enough startups that were not looking after revenue that, you know, they didn't do so well. And I like the fact that, you know, we look at revenue as something important in our business.
Yeah. Well, I think in any financial domain, it's all about GMV, right? It's all about how much, you know, dollars are being transacted through, because that gives you the opportunity to take a piece, you know, like that's how margin works.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's important. I mean, I would be worried if a financial company tells me like I don't make any money.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's important.
But I think it's also when you're sitting on the other side of the table on like with a big, you know, like one of the big banks that's not signed yet, you're like, hey, we have X million flowing through our business.
Yeah.
They're all of a sudden, you know, ears pick up, you know, it's not just about the algorithm that they won't understand or some kind of opaque technology. I want to shift just a bit to talk about a space that you're familiar with, which is not your current job, but maybe because of your past life, because I know we've spoken about this, is the agency space, right? So curious as to you think is, fintech's exploding, what's happening in the agency space? Who do you see winning? Who do you see losing?
So that's interesting. So actually I wrote I gave an interview at Info Press about that, in the recent days. And the way I look at it is, and I haven't done it on purpose necessarily, but I basically built my own agency internally, to some extent, you know. So I got my analytics guy that was working with me at Cassette. I got a chief my head of product that was a creative at Taxi and another place. I hired a guy from Accenture and other people. So I think it's key that, agency understand that companies will more and more, you know, hire the same type of expertise, while at the same time I'm working with Jungle Media to do my media purchase. But we do it really in collaboration. It's not like agency, agency client relationship. It's truly a partnership, and it feels like they're part of my team, and we just, you know, work together.
Yeah, it's a great kind of pro and con and the same kind of insight, right? Where it's like certain stuff, you're like, well, I'm not going to externalize this. It's too strategic. It's too core to what we do. But in other cases, hey, I need to have a partner sitting on the table.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
That's kind of how I see it as well. Where it's
and I like the fact that they have multiple, agencies have to be very strategic in having enough type of expertise that most companies would not like get full time on their payroll. But at this, and so I like the fact that I can pick and choose different expertise. I like the buffet. The buffet.
Yeah, this has been a really good talk, Malik, and I want to be respectful. It seems like you're a busy guy now. That definitely love to do a second round when you guys are going to hit another, let's say, a 10x growth. It looks like what you're going through already at 20, 30 people. Maybe one last question is where can people find out more about what you guys are doing, about yourself?
Sure. So please go visit nesto.ca. Make sure you mention that you listen to this podcast and we'll give you an extra few points on your mortgage.
Very cool, Malik. Well, thanks, man. It was fun to catch up.
Okay. Thanks, Nectar.
Thank you for listening to the Point of No Return podcast. Never miss an episode by clicking on the subscribe button on iTunes or Google Play.